Okay. In previous session, we mostly concentrated on the executive part of income tax authority. However, I already made a point that income tax authority has a quasi-judicial part, which is known as Taxes Appellate Tribunal, and that is completely separated from the executive part. That means the National Board of Revenue. So what was the purpose of introducing this appellate tribunal? It is for the purpose of taxes only, and that means for some reason assessee can feel that the way how I'm thinking that my tax will be this amount, or this tax rule shall be understood in this way. However, NBR officers or NBR commissionerate officers are thinking that this rule should be applied in this way, and the amount of taxes assessee is thinking that this amount should be my taxes or my taxable amount, or it should be my tax liability. But officers of NBR are thinking that assessee is not telling the truth, or assessee is misunderstanding something, or assessee has misstated something in his or her tax return. So if assessee thinks that he is right or his institution is right, and he or his institution point is different from the point made by the NBR. So in that case, you can expect that there shall be a dispute between assessee and the NBR. So who is the person, or who is the or which authority is there to solve the dispute between the NBR and the assessee? So the answer is that to resolve this kind of issues means the dispute between the income tax executive body, that means the NBR, and the assessee, Taxes Appellate Tribunal was introduced as per Income Tax Ordinance 1984. So in your income tax, or in our Income Tax Ordinance 1984, there has been mentioning about the Taxes Appellate Tribunal. So I think from a short brief, you already have got what is the purpose of the Taxes Appellate Tribunal. And in previous session, I also told you some of the physical properties of the Taxes Appellate Tribunal, that is where it is located and how many benches are right now working. That is 8 benches are working, and each bench, you probably have heard about the bench in the court environment, that the bench of judges has decided or has given this kind of judgment. So you heard about the term bench there. So in Taxes Appellate Tribunal, right now there are 8 benches. I told to you that where are those branches? 5 are within Dhaka and 3 are outside of Dhaka. So you will see the separate administration for the Taxes Appellate Tribunal. So each bench is composed of 2 members. So each bench has 2 members, and the Taxes Appellate Tribunal is headed by a president. So make it clear, the chief of NBR, National Board of Revenue, is known as chairman, but the head of the Texas Appellate Tribunal is known as the president. So he is the president of all benches. He is president of the total Texas Appellate Tribunal. So who can be the person, or what requirements are essential to make sure that a person can be eligible to be a president of Texas Appellate Tribunal? So in this slide, you are seeing some points which are essential characteristics or essential criteria to select a person to become or to nominate him as a president of the Texas Appellate Tribunal. So these are some general points which are mostly self-explanatory, but I just want to highlight some points like these are some alternatives. These are not all points are complementary. Make it clear. All of these points are alternative. That means either number 1 can be true, number 2 can be true, number 3 can be true. It's not like that all of these conditions are to be met. Okay. So for example, a person can be considered or nominated as a president if he is a chartered accountant and he practiced professionally. That means he practiced his chartered accountancy at least for 8 years. At least for 8 years. Similarly, the person can also be a cost and management accountant, but make sure that that person also work professionally, or more appropriate is practice his professional works at least for 8 years. And interestingly, president can also be a person who has been a district judge. So you know very well that district judge are usually those persons who are not from the business background or not from the science background. Usually they have a good amount of education in the law and order. Okay, so these are interesting that the alternatives are so diverse that for example, the president can also be an advocate, and such that person has done his professional advocacy at least for 10 years in any income tax office. Okay, and it can also be the person is an income tax practitioner and that person worked at least for 20 years as an income tax practitioner. Okay, so the income tax practitioner can be a person who has passed in the ITP exam. You probably have heard about this exam, income tax professional exam.
Yes, sir.
So, income tax professional exam, if that person has certificate of passing in this exam, that person is officially known as income tax practitioner. So right now the November month is going on. These people have been spending very busy time in this month because people are rushing to submit their income tax return. Not only people, also the institutions who have the deadline in this month to submit their income tax return, they are also rushing. So it is a good time for earning a good amount of income for these people, income tax practitioner or income tax professional. So these are the some criteria which you need to check, or you need to keep it in your mind, that if a person is a president of Texas Appellate Tribunal, in that case, the president either he was a member of the board, NBR. He was or is a member of the board. I talked about the member who are in the supreme position of the tax authority. Okay, so that person has also can also have an experience of a member, and he can also be a commissioner of taxes. That means he was. So these people can be selected to work as the president of the Texas Appellate Tribunal. Okay. So for Texas Appellate Tribunal, their activities are governed by this separate rule, which is known as Texas Appellate Tribunal Procedure Rules, or TATP rules, 1985. So if you want to submit your appeal, or appeal for what? Because you are in a dispute between the income tax executive body and yourself. So you need to check the procedure of applying the appeal in this Texas Appellate Tribunal, and you need to work forward how these rules have been described. So for your exam purposes, we will not test that how the procedure will be implemented in detail. Rather, at least you need to know the basic, what is the purpose of this, and who can be the president of the Texas Appellate Tribunal, and which rule governs this Texas Appellate Tribunal. However, in your life, in your practical life, or when you will work as an income tax practitioner, or you will work as a chartered accountancy and you want to concentrate in the income tax or taxes issue, and you like to submit an appeal to the Texas Appellate Tribunal, you need to check which procedure you need to go through to appeal, to submit your appeal to this Texas Appellate Tribunal. So you know very well that for bureaucracy, it is not very easy that a dispute between you and the tax authority will be solved very conveniently or very quickly. So people feel that, or the assessee specific feel that they are very much fortunate if in their life they have not been called by the income tax authority, and income tax authority are happy with the submission of the assessee and the amount of tax paid by the assessee. So in most of the cases, if the person feels that that person has not experienced any dispute between him or her and the or assessee and the income tax authority, he's a very fortunate person in our country, very specifically, because people want to avoid the income tax authority, and people don't. People means here I am trying to refer the assessee. Assessee usually don't like the people who work in the income tax office, because they have a belief that income tax authority people are very likely to make a harassment or to invite some dispute without any reason. So they want to avoid the people, or they want to avoid the income tax office. And for that avoidance and to get escaped from the income tax authority, they also try to hide their income. They also try not to submit their income tax return. So to avoid or to avoid this kind of harassment, or to give some courage to the assessee, income tax authority introduced the income tax fair for last couple of years. So people feel very well when they have an opportunity to go to the income tax fair and submit their income tax return. So you may ask why people are feeling more happy to visit the income tax fair instead of going to the income tax office. Though income tax fair is organized and is completely controlled and completely led by the people who work in the income tax office. So what's the difference? The difference is that when there is a fair, income tax fair, it's 7 days or 1 week or 2 weeks like this. So the people who collects the income tax return in the fair, they are also the tax officers, and like Assistant Commissioner of Taxes gives sign on the income tax return acknowledgement. But matter is that income tax officers find very little time or no time to check whether the assessee has submitted his or her income tax return properly or not. So it is an advantage for the assessee to escape from the scrutiny of income tax officers, that if he or she goes to income tax fair, it is likely that officers will not check his return and he or she will get the acknowledgement very easily. So you may ask, so when they will check? So they will check after the fair. So in our country, how the income tax return is checked by the income tax officers, that the assessee has submitted his or her income tax return properly, or there is a problem, or assessee has hit some of his particulars of income, or hit some of his particulars of asset. So after finishing of the assessment year, that means for 2019-20 income year, right now the assessment year which is going on 2020-21, that is currently going on, and the deadline for submission of income tax return is November 30. So after November 30, if you want to submit the income tax return and want to pay taxes of the income year 2019-20, you will face some penalty in terms of interest payment. So after November 30, the income tax officers aggregate all of the income tax returns submitted to them in this assessment year, and they randomly pick some returns and check whether there is any discrepancy or not. So if you people feel that if people are those persons who have been randomly picked, they are not the lucky people, because the income tax authority will try to find out some discrepancies or some problems in his or her return, and will call that assessee for hearing, that why you have not disclosed this, or why you have not presented this, like this kind of question. So if you are an honest person, if you are a person who practice or who does not hide his or her income particulars or asset particulars, he or she does not need to feel shy or does not need to feel worried about the hearing of the income tax authority. So it is very likely, or if you ask the people or the senior people who are around you, that whether you have experienced the income tax hearing from the income tax authority, in most of the cases, answer will be no. In most of the cases, answer will be no. But in some cases, the answer is yes, that that person was called by the income tax authority. But people, if you are a person who knows very well that he has not done anything wrong, in that case, you should not feel any worry about the hearing of income tax authority. But in our country, it is observed that the people who don't submit or who don't take any opportunity in a sense, or who have not done any discrepancy, they are the people called by the income tax authority, and those people feel harassed. That means the honest people are very likely in our country to feel harassed in income tax offices. So it is the experience of the people. That's why the experience are shared by people themselves. So they try to avoid the income tax authority. So what I'm trying to point out here, that you like to solve your dispute through Texas Appellate Tribunal. So before coming to the Texas Appellate Tribunal, you can also work or you can also consult with the Commissioner of the Income Tax zone, which is applicable for you. But you know very well, for bureaucratic reason, it takes long years to solve the appeal, which is submitted to the Appellate Tribunal for whatever the reason. So in that case, what happened? If the dispute is continuing, for example, you are a Grameen Phone, you are facing a dispute, you have a conflict. Conflict means conflict related to the taxes issues with the tax executive authority. So you have submitted an appeal to the Texas Appellate Tribunal. So you know very well how fast the Appellate Tribunal or the judicial authority works in our country, how fast their speed is on their in their work. So in that case, what happened? So let me discuss from the, let me explain from the perspective of assessee. So when you are in a dispute, your tax dispute is going on with the income tax office or taxes authority. In that case, if you go for taking any permission from the regulatory authority, or you want to take loan from the bank, or you want to raise financing from IPO or equity market, you will face problem. You will not be allowed to do so. You will not be given bank loan. You will not be given permission to take the financing from the financial market, or you will face problem to take any approval from the regulatory authority because you are in a dispute which is currently going on with the income tax authority. In that case, you are very likely to incur financial losses for number of years. This is from the perspective of the that means the problem faced by the assessee when he or she or the institution or institutional assessee has submitted an appeal to the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal. And let's talk about from the perspective what problem caused to the income tax authority when the appeal is going on. So right now, approximately more than 20,000 cases are going on in Texas Appellate Tribunal. That means 20,000 appeals have not been resolved in Income Tax Appellate Tribunal right now. So you may feel that what's wrong with that? 20,000 appeals are in the process in Texas Appellate Tribunal. So it is very similar to our judicial authority, where you see thousands of cases are held in the judicial authority. The problem is that when the judicial authority, that means your case or your appeal is withheld in the judicial authority, that is not a major consequence to the judicial authority or to the body as a whole. But when the appeal is withheld or appeal process has not been resolved in the income tax environment or income tax authority, in that case, you are losing the taxes revenue which was expected by the government to generate from the assessee. In that case, if you don't generate the taxes revenue what you expected from the assessee for a long time, in that case, you will not be able to get your income which you expected, or income means revenue, which you expected in your budget every year. So in that case, you are not getting taxes revenue. That means you are missing. So that missing means you are not generating revenue. In that case, you will face problem to meet up your expenses, development expenditure, your non-development expenditure, what you estimated in your budget. In addition to that, if it goes on for years and years, in that case, you need to increase your dependency of taking loan from the banking sector. Who are you? You are the government. So government recently means Finance Act 2011. In 2011, government introduced alternate dispute resolution, ADR system. Alternate dispute resolution, which was introduced in Finance Act 2011. I think you are very clear what is Finance Act 2011, because we talked about the sources of income tax laws or source of tax laws. One of those sources was Finance Act. So it was Finance Act 2011. So the alternate dispute resolution was introduced in Finance Act 2011, which is saying that the dispute between the income tax, not only income tax authority, income tax executive body, or Texas Appellate Tribunal, or judicial authority, that means High Court, with the dispute between this authority or these bodies and the assessee. If the dispute is going on, look at here. You are in a dispute either with income tax authority or with the appellate tribunal or with the judicial court. Court means the problem could not be dissolved in the income tax authority. The problem could not transfer to tribunal. The resolution given by the tribunal was not satisfactory. That's why the cases or the appeal transferred to the court. It is going on. So in that case, to reduce the time required for resolving this appeal, this ADR was issued or ADR was introduced. Okay. So concentrate it very carefully that we try to resolve the dispute between the income tax authority or the income tax appellate tribunal or taxes appellate tribunal. It is not a specific income tax appellate tribunal, it is taxes appellate tribunal, or the court and assessee. So how alternate dispute resolution works? Alternate dispute resolution works in a process which is very quick and which is very speedy and which is very simple. Okay, so how can you go through this alternate dispute resolution process? First of all, you need to ask yourself, are you an assessee who is aggrieved by the income tax authority, or you are an assessee who is facing a dispute between the income tax authority, either from income tax authority or with the tribunal or with the court? So simplistically, you are an assessee. You feel aggrieved because you are not happy with the decision of income tax authority. So whoever is here, that means the assessee is facing dispute with this authority or with these bodies. Okay, in that case, what can you do? What you are trying to do, you try to resolve your dispute through the ADR process. In that case, first of all, you need to apply for the ADR. That means you don't like to continue with the income tax authority for the dispute, or you don't like to continue with the tribunal, or you don't like to continue with the court. In that case, first of all, you need to apply for the ADR process. Now you may ask, to whom I will apply? The answer is, you need to apply for the ADR to that body with which you are having a dispute. For example, you are in a dispute with the income tax authority. In that case, your address of ADR should be made to the income tax authority. Or, for example, you are British American Tobacco and a case has been filed against you by the income tax authority in the court. In that case, the court will take the decision, and the decision is a court is taking time to make the decision. In that case, what can you do? Instead of waiting for the decision from the court, you can apply to the court that I want to resolve my dispute, or I want to resolve our dispute through the ADR process. If your respective authority gives you permission that your application has been approved, in that case, what can you do? You can take the permission. That means initially you have applied for what? You have applied for the permission. When you have got the permission from this authority, the respective authority, what can you do? You can apply for ADR formally now to the NBR. Now what NBR will do? NBR will select or appoint a facilitator. Make it clear. Who is the facilitator? NBR has made consultation with the business authority or business conglomerate, not business conglomerate or business authority, specifically business association. You probably have learned about the FBCCI, Federation of Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce and Industries, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So NBR has consulted with the FBCCI, and So far, I can recall from the last news that NVR, with consultation of FBCCI, has formed a board of 13 members who can be a facilitator here for the ADR purposes. So NVR will select a person out of this board who will work as a facilitator. Facilitator will negotiate or will make a deal between which body. One is you, that means you are an assessee. Another body is either income tax authority or the appellate tribunal or the court. Okay, so in that case, you already have taken permission from here. What I'm taking here, the authority is now income tax authority. One party is, look at here, one party is you are an assessee, and another party is income tax authority. So what facilitator will do? Facilitator will send the application made by you for the ADR to the DCT. Who is DCT? Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So we'll forward your application to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So if it is such that Deputy Commissioner of Taxes has given a proper reply to the application, to the letter sent by the facilitator with attachment of your application, and DCT has given a proper answer that why the dispute is going on between me and the assessee. If it is such that our facilitator thinks that the answer given by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes are very right or very adequate and very sufficient to believe that assessee is not doing the right thing or assessee is in wrong understanding. That means assessee in wrong understanding, what does it mean? That means the income tax authority is okay. Income tax authority is right. In that case, answer, the reply is proper. In that case, ADR shall not continue. ADR shall not continue. Okay. However, if it is such that a good reply from the respective DCT is not coming, or the reply made by the income tax authority is not sufficient to believe that the tax authority, the assessee is in a wrong position, or that means not in a right position. In that case, what facilitator will do? Facilitator will call a meeting. Meeting with whom? Meeting with assessee himself and the respective DCT, that means Deputy Commissioner of Taxes or representative of DCT. And when they will come, this authority and you assessee and the facilitator is here. How many parties here right now? 3. One is facilitator, another one assessee, another one the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes or
income tax authority.
Right, his representative. Okay. So if there is a kind of you probably have learned about the what I will say, for giving you a practical example, is a kind of, you probably have learned about the settlement in some issues in village, that there will be authority from the chairman, Union Parishad chairman, and two parties who are in dispute, and they will make a settlement, they will make a negotiation to resolve the issue. Have you heard about this kind of settlement?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yeah, that kind of settlement is working here. Okay, so facilitator is leading this board, and here is one party who is assessee, another party is the
Deputy Commissioner of
Deputy
Tax.
Commissioner of Taxes, who is on behalf of Income Tax Authority. Okay, so if agreement is reached between these two parties, facilitator will record the details and send the result to the assessee and the respective DCT. That means the problem is resolved because they have made a negotiation that, for example, and we are tax authorities thinking that I'm giving a very simple example. For example, NBR or Deputy Commissioner thinks that the tax amount should be this amount with this percentage of penalty, but assessee is giving some evidence that the penalty will not be applicable for him. So NBR, Authority or Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, thinks that I for my purpose or for the tax authority purpose, let's exempt the penalty. That means you will pay the due, the penalty will not be applicable, or I will not take penalty from you. In that case, there can be an agreement. Okay, so you probably have heard about that. Recently, there was a disagreement between the BTRC and the Grameen Phone. Can you recall? For last couple of years, there has been a dispute going on between BTRC and the Grameen Phone regarding the VAT issues. Not VAT issues.
Grameen Phone.
Yeah. So these are very common. These are very common, commonly with the corporate assessee. So those amounts are significantly large amount. That's why they are under the large taxpayers unit. Okay. So when there has been an agreement, the result is final, and no person, either NBR or the assessee, can challenge for amending the decision. Okay, that is the final. However, if they can't reach any agreement, who are they? Assessee and the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes couldn't reach any agreement. In that case, that means the result of the ADR is not satisfactory. In that case, facilitator will share the result with the related parties within the 15 days of the date of disagreement, on the date in which the disagreement happened. Okay, and so what can you do in that case? You can again go higher in a same process. For example, if you had dispute with the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, in that case, you can again apply, or you can submit an appeal again to the Appellate Joint Commissioner or Appellate Additional Commissioner or Commissioner of Taxes, who are in the Income Tax Appellate, Taxes Appellate Tribunal. However, if your dispute is with the Appellate Tribunal, if your dispute is with the additional, that means the commissioner who are the body who are in the Appellate Tribunal, in that case you can submit an appeal to the Appellate Tribunal. In previous case, you are submitting appeal to the individual Appellate Commissioner. But right now, if your dispute is with the commissioner who are in the appellate body or appellate part, in that case, you can submit appeal to the Taxes Appellate Tribunal. However, if it is such that your dispute is with the Taxes Appellate Tribunal, you can again go to the judicial court, that means the High Court. Okay, so in that way, the ADR process works. So the good news is that for last few years, this ADR has brought, or the resolution through ADR has brought 20,000 crore taka as tax revenue. So a good amount, significant amount are in the process. If the ADR, the dispute between the assessee and the tax authority can be resolved, the dispute amount can be collected, and the tax revenue from the assessee can be collected properly by compromising for some amount and by resolving the dispute between the tax authority and the assessee. So the tax authority at last has understood that they are not the competing party, that assessee and the tax authority cannot be competing party. They should support each other to increase the tax revenue of a country. So if the assessee does not support the tax authority, or tax authority does not support the assessee, the number of dispute, or the number of dispute cases, or the number of appeals will go on. However, what will happen? Tax revenue will not go on. Tax revenue will not increase. So NBR has at last understood that we should reduce the number of dispute, at least by making some compromise, and to increase what?
Number of income tax.
Number of income tax or amount of taxes?
Sorry, amount of income tax. Sorry,
Amount of income tax revenue. So I think you have got the convincing answer that why ADR was introduced. Make it very clear, ADR is a general term. ADR is a general term. In any field, ADR, you can see the word ADR. That means alternate dispute resolution. You can also find the ADR when the dispute can arise between the BTRC. The BTRC is not a tax authority. BTRC is a telecommunication regulatory authority. So ADR, you can find the word ADR in BTRC, and when BTRC or the regulator is having a dispute between the companies who are under the regulation of BTRC, they can resolve their dispute through the ADR. And here we are concentrating our learning of ADR from the perspective of income tax. Not only tax, we have given the example, or we have mentioned from the perspective of income tax, but it is applicable for customs. It is also applicable for VAT. Okay, so it is very likely that if you are not a very butterfly reader of newspaper, you are a loyal reader of newspaper, in that case, it is very likely that you will see several cases every day or every week that is occurring between the tax authority and the assessee, that tax authority is claiming that this should be paid, this amount should be paid, but assessee has not paid, or assessee is claiming that this is not the right amount which is claimed by the income tax authority. Okay, so if you look, I will share several clips from the newspaper in which you will see that British American Tobacco, Grameenphone, these large taxpayers are taking help of ADR or using the ADR process to resolve their dispute with the income tax authority. Okay. So may I ask, not may I ask, if you have any question from this session, or not this session, this lecture, I mean this chapter, I can take your question after finishing this session. Before that, I like to introduce, or I like to begin the quantitative part of the income tax, or our course that starts with the income from salary. That means we will try to learn how the taxable income from different sources can be calculated for the tax purposes. Let me show you a plain document. No, not this document right now, but let me show you some sources where you can get the, for example, you will find several references of income tax ordinance 1984 in your text. So if you like to see that where is the income tax ordinance, the original one, the address is here. That means you will find all of the laws of Bangladesh in this site, bdlaws.ministry of law. That means minlaw.gov.bd. And if you search here the income tax ordinance, you will get the income tax ordinance 1984 here. Okay. So we will talk about salary here, section 21 today, which has been devoted for discussing how income from salary will be computed for the tax purposes. Okay. So first of all, would you spend a minute to look at how the income tax ordinance has defined the salary? It is not something which is to be defined. I think not almost all of you know very well which income can be treated as salary, which income cannot be treated as salary. So this definition has specifically been mentioned specifically mentioned in the income tax ordinance for the people who try to make income tax authority confused that I am receiving income from my business and I'm receiving, for example, I am a person has a institution, so that person is the owner. So that person is receiving income from his or her business. So you know it very clear that if that person receives a particular, for example, fixed income from his or her business, it cannot be a salary. Why it cannot be a salary? Because he is not an employer here, or he is not an employee there. Why? Because he himself is a single person and he is the owner and he is the beneficiary there. So he cannot be a person who is employed there. Employee can be a person who is employed by himself, by the owner. So a critical point that if you want to claim that you are receiving a particular income, or you want to recognize that income as a salary, you must recognize that, or you must show that you are an employee and you are receiving that income, which you want to say that it is a salary, and you are receiving that income from an employer. If you don't know who is your employer and you are receiving income which is generated by yourself, you can't say you are receiving salary. Have you got the point?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
That
sir.
means it should be a employer-employee relationship, employer-employee relationship to recognize income as a salary. And it can be such that, for example, for last few months due to pandemic, for example, salary was not paid properly. So if salary is paid right now, it may not be a current salary, and arrear of salary is also included in salary. Okay, so if it is such that for salary, for some a portion of salary you didn't pay taxes in previous year, so in this year if it has been discovered that you have not paid taxes on a particular amount of salary you earned in last year, in that case you need to include that salary in current year's salary for the tax purpose. Okay, so those are some very basic concepts to understand the concept of salary. But for our conceptual purpose, how the income from salary will be treated for tax purposes, if you have the text before you, I will try to tell you to open the chapter 4 to see the income from salary, because I will try to refer something from there. For example, which are the components of salary and which are not the component of salary. I think most of you, not all of you, have or had learned the accounting of wages and salary in your intermediate education.
Yes, sir.
So you probably learned that there are some basic components of salary. It is not that salary is a single item. Under salary, we may have several items. So let me show you some items which can be part of salary. Right now, I am looking at 58 subsection of section 2 to show you some components of salary. Okay, you see my highlighted portion. Salary includes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So salary includes any pay or wages. It can also include annuity, pension, or gratuity. It can also include any fee, commission, allowances, perquisite, or profit in lieu of or in addition to salary or wages, any advance of salary, any leave encashment. So if you see this kind of mark on left side of any word in the income tax ordinance 1984, this is very interactive. For example, if you click here, you see that it was added through Finance Act 1999. So what does it mean? Though Income Tax Ordinance 1984, this ordinance was introduced in 1984, this sub-clause was not there till 1999. Okay, so Finance Act 1999 introduced this sub-clause in the Income Tax Ordinance for this item, any leave encashment. I will explain you about this. Okay, so first of all, let me highlight some points to understand the components of the salary. First of all, for example, annuity is a kind of, you have seen this word multiple times in your finance text or finance course. So it is the periodic fixed payment. In tax purposes, you need to understand that it is a kind of periodic fixed payment made by the employer to the employee, usually after retirement. Okay, and you know very well about the pension benefit given by the employer to the employee, and how pension and gratuity, though they are synonymously used, but usually pension is paid in multiple times, or I mean multiple periods. That means not all pension payments are given to you at a single payment, but gratuity payment is a payment which is paid in a single time, and the gratuity is a kind of one-time payment. It's not like that the pension and the gratuity are is a kind of complementary, these are the substitute. That means you should not assume that if a person is pension recipient, that person will not be given gratuity. It's not that case. Okay, gratuity can also be given to a person who is also the beneficiary of pension. Okay, then allowances, let me give you some example. For example, for my cases, I receive some house rent allowance, some telephone allowance, some conveyance allowance, some research allowance, in addition to my salary. In addition to my not salary, in addition to my basic salary, very specifically. Okay, so those are some kind of additional payment which are known as allowances. So for example, allowances can also include the festival allowances. For example, we are given allowance for Pohela Boishak. That is also an example of allowance, which is in addition to the basic salary. Okay. So let me spend some time to understand the perquisite. So usually perquisite is conceptually known as some additional benefit. But for tax purposes, you need to be very specific what we try to mean by the perquisite in terms of income tax ordinance. Okay. So in income tax ordinance, specifically in income tax rules, it is mentioned that the perquisite is something which is not your basic salary, not your festival bonus, not your incentive bonus, not your area salary, not your advance salary, not your leave encashment, not your leave fare assistance, or not your overtime. So can anyone tell me a component of salary which is part of perquisite but not part of those components which I just have mentioned to you?
Insurance.
Insurance?
Yes.
Yeah, very good example. For example, your employer is paying insurance premium for you every month. In that case, it is an example of perquisite. Okay. Can anyone give me another example? Very simplistically, there are some very core component of salary. So which are very core component? For example, basic salary, festival bonus, incentive bonus, overtime, advance salary, area salary, leave encashment. These are very core type of salary. That means alternatively, you mean this word or you understand salary with this kind of term, or you know very well these are very heart of the salary. Okay, for example, overtime, it is very close to salary, but it is additional of basic responsibilities. That's why it is known as and its payment is okay. I'll tell about payment, but before that I want to listen another example of perquisite from you.
স্যার আপনি যে বললেন টেলিফোন বিল সেটা কি স্যার হয় পারকিউজিটে?
Yeah, very good example. It is very common example. I mean the very common part of the people who receive salary, that they are given the telephone allowance. Okay, so let me give you an interesting example what people do when they receive this kind of telephone allowance, or alternatively they receive instead of having allowance, person can receive the telephone itself,
house rent, sir.
and yeah, so the interesting example I try to give you, that is kind of people are given a smartphone from their employer, and the contract is such that the telephone bill will be paid by the employer. That is a kind of benefit. Okay, have you got it?
Yes, sir.
So after finishing their graduation, I have received so many calls from my friends from unknown number. So my first question is, why you are giving me call from this number instead of the number which you shared with me in your academic life, or which is already in my contact list? The common response from them is that I have received this phone from my X or Y employer, and all of my bills will be paid by the employer. That's why I'm calling you from this same number. Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
when this is free of cost, people want to spend indiscriminately. So most of the cases, when you will also be graduating, or when you will finish your graduation, you will probably see that your colleagues or you yourself also are spending a good amount of time over talking with your friends and family using your official phone. What's the reason? You know very well that the bills will be paid by your employer.
Yes, sir.
So do you think it is a very right approach of using the employer benefit? Employer has given you the benefit to use that for your friends and family, or for office purpose?
Which purpose?
Office purpose, sir.
If it is specifically mentioned, I am giving you it for official purpose, in that case it is dishonesty of using this number for your friends and family. Otherwise, if it is such that the benefit is given to you for that employer is telling you that it is for your personal purpose, in that case there is no problem. That means there is no dishonesty using that number or that phone for calling to whom you are wanting to talk. Okay. So I have given you an example, interesting example for that. But before that, I like to give another interesting example of perquisite. If you but what I expect, that a good number of people from you will be working in top corporate houses after 2 or 3 years. So you will be given, when you will become senior executives, you will be given the membership of the Kurmitula Golf Club. Okay, so I think many of you have seen the how people play golf in our country. So in foreign countries, it is not very expensive game. That means it is not, you don't need to spend very much to play the game. But in our country, for whatever the reason, it has become very expensive to play the golf. So if you are a very good golf player, you need a sponsorship because you can't afford the place or you can't afford the membership fee which you need for playing the golf. So when you will be working in a good corporate houses, you will be given a free membership to the Kodmitula Golf Club or other golf club which are which exist in our country. Okay, so getting a free membership in a golf club or, for example, in other club are also kind of example of perquisite. Okay, so I also have got an example of house rent allowance. That is also an example of perquisite. But matter is that it is just for conceptual purpose to understand what are the perquisite, what are not perquisite. But the tax treatment are very specific for each and every item which are component of salary and which are component of perquisite. So we need to understand how these components are treated for tax purpose. So let's talk about how can we calculate the taxable income from the salary. Okay. So if you have your text before you, I can show you, I can refer to a chart which is page 76. It is of the old edition, but the title of the table is Computation of Taxable Income from Salary at a Glance, or more specifically in 4.6 point items in not 4.6 point. That is kind of some description, and the rules have been summarized how the components will be treated for tax purpose. So let me show you from the income tax Nirdeshika, or this is kind of document published every year by the NBR, which is a kind of guideline for computing the income tax from salary or computing the taxable income from salary. Okay, so I think you are watching my PDF file.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, it is the basic salary. Though the words are written in Bangla, I didn't get the words, the document in English, but I'll try to explain you in English because you will, the medium of instruction is English and you will need to solve all of your problems in English so that you will not get it confused, but concentrate either on a screen or your chapter of income from salary in your text. Okay, so first of all, it is the basic salary. Make it clear, it is fully taxable. It is fully taxable. That means it is 100% taxable income. 100% of this income will be included in the taxable income.
Income tax return.
Sorry.
স্যার বললাম income tax return.
Yeah, it will be included in the total taxable income. Total taxable income for tax purposes. Let me show you my tax return separately for you so that you can understand it very clearly. It is the cover page. I am preparing my income tax return for this assessment year, which is currently going on. So what we have understood just right now, basic salary is fully taxable. Basic salary is fully taxable. Have you got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So before spending time for understanding the components of salary, let me give you some motivation why you need to put much of your concentration here right now, because you it is uh, it is worthy to learn, because when if it is such that you will not be working as an income tax practitioner, but at least more than 50% of you will be a salaried employee in your career life. So you will be supposed to submit your income tax return. So you need to attach this Schedule 24A. It is the form which is given in Income Tax Rules 1984. I told about that income tax rules to you when I was discussing we are discussing about the source of income tax laws. You can recall income tax rules, okay, 1984. So this is one of the schedule from there. And you may ask me from where this schedule is available to understand how to present my income from salary. The answer is the source is always NBR on NBR website. Okay, so let me take you to the NBR website. I have gone there, and you look at the form tab, and on the drop down list, I have come to the income tax. And if I select this, you will see all of the forms related to the income tax which you may need to submit the income tax return. For example, the form what I just have opened before you, that is the income from salary. What is the form name? Schedule 24A. Okay. So that is here. Okay. So let me, either it is in PDF or it is in doc. If you like to submit it manually, in later of our session, I will, not today's session, I will show you how to use the online system to submit the income tax return. In that case, you will not need to fill this form manually. Okay. So you see the form,
Yes, sir.
or the schedule. Okay. Okay. So it is very clear that why we are presenting our salary here. Okay. First of all, the basic salary is fully taxable. Okay. So there is no difference between or among any employee regarding the basic salary, because basic salary is fully taxable for any person. Okay. So why I'm differentiating? I'm differentiating because the tax treatment for government employee and non-government employee is different. For government employees like me, only basic salary and the festival allowance is taxable. I'll tell you more about it, but just for this point, make it clear. For government employees, which components of salary are only taxable? Basic salary
And festival.
and the
Basic pay and festival allowance.
allowance. So this is my income tax return as a Dhaka University academic. And let me show you income tax return of Assistant Commissioner, BCS. Let me show you a return of that person. That means if you want to join as a BCS admin cadre, what kind of income tax return you will be feeling by yourself. You see, basic salary, fully taxable. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then festival bonus, fully taxable. Okay.
Taxable.
Okay, fine. Okay. So I think up to this you have got. So let me continue for further point. Okay. So if you don't concentrate right now here, it is very likely that you will be taking help to fill up your income tax return from other people who knows these rules. And right now, at least 2,000 taka is to be paid to the person in your office to take help or to give the task to him to fill the income tax return on behalf of you. So at least 2,000 you need to pay. But however, when you will be working at, I mean, after 3 or 4 years, or when you will be an executive, you may need to pay at least 5,000 to the income tax practitioner. For what purposes? To fill the income tax return. For example, I'm filling this. Okay. So how I'm filling it, because I know how can I need to apply the rules here. Okay. So unless you know the rules, you can't feel confident to fill your income tax return by yourself. Okay. So you need to learn these things not for appearing in the business tax final exam or midterm exam. Rather, you need to learn this very well for helping yourself, for helping your family members, for helping your colleagues to fill up their income tax return. Okay. And from this year, make it very clear, the person who have the TIN number, it is mandatory for all people who have the TIN number to submit the income tax return. Okay. So let me continue. Okay. This is the rules what we will follow will be applicable not for the government employee, but for the non-government employee. Make it very clear. It is not for government employee. It's for employee who work for private employer. Okay, for example, you work for Grameenphone, or you work for Teletalk, or you work for example, Singer, or you work for SDI. Okay. So if any special allowance is given to you, that is also fully taxable. If any area salary is given to you, that is fully taxable. These are some example numbers. These are not actual numbers. These are some numbers which have been taken for just for example, or just to give you some illustration. Okay. So which are our point? How much or how much percentage is taxable? Okay. Then it is known as dearness allowance. You probably have learned the term from your wage and salary accounting in your accounting module in intermediate education. Okay, dearness allowance.
Yes, sir.
That is fully taxable. Then, which is more important here to understand, make it clear. House rent allowance, it is a big component of your total salary. I'm repeating, it is a big component. So how much big? It is if you live in Dhaka, it is 50%. If you live in outside of Dhaka, it is less than 50%, kind of 45%. I'm just telling you some percentage to give you an idea that how much it is relative to your basic salary. So 50%, if my basic salary, for example, let me show you an example. Okay. How much is my basic salary here?
4,82,386.
482,386. So look at my house rent allowance, 240,752. Without any calculation, can you tell me it is very close to 50%?
Sir.
Okay, so it will be very likely. However, if I am a second class employee, I mean, I'm a second means I'm not a 9th grade, or I'm, for example, 10th grade or 11th grade employee. In that case, I'm very likely to see, or you will very likely to see, that this house rent is no longer 50%, it is approximately 60%. Make it very clear. That means for low salaried employees, house rent percentage of what? Percentage of basic salary is usually higher percentage. Okay. So you, yeah. Would you like to tell anything? Okay. For example, if you receive house rent allowance of 240,000, for example, 240,000, and if I ask you how much monthly house allowance you are receiving, if the yearly allowance is 240,000, is it 20,000?
Yes, sir. প্রতি মাসে তো 20,000 হয়।
Okay. So how much is taxable of this house rent allowance? Make it clear, how much of this house rent allowance is taxable? That is our question now, right now. The answer is 50% of this house rent allowance, 50% of this house rent allowance, or 25,000 monthly, annually 300,000. Whichever is lower, that amount is tax exempted. Let me show you some calculation. For example, I have not taken my writing board, so it will be difficult to write here. Okay. My house rent allowance is okay. It will be convenient to use the Excel. I'll take the board from next class so that okay. For example, my house rent allowance is 240,000. Okay. So the rule is such that 50% of my house rent allowance. How much is my 50% of house rent allowance? 120,000?
1,20,000. Yes, sir.
Okay. It is or 25,000 monthly or 3 lakh yearly. These are same. 25,000 multiplied by 12 is equal to 300,000, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now tell me which one is lower, which one is higher?
So the 50% of your basic salary is lower.
Okay. In that case, that amount will be tax exempted. Have we got it? In that case, what shall be the final taxable house rent allowance?
1,20,000.
This one minus,
Yes, sir. 1,20,000.
okay. So have you got it how 60,000 has been computed here, taxable?
So,
Yeah. 50% of 240,000 is 120,000. And
50% of basic salary is 60,000.
what is the basic salary here? Yeah, I did mistake. 50%. Sorry, this is not 50% of house rent. 50% of basic. 50% of basic, or 25,000 monthly, and annual 300,000. Which one is lower? I did mistake here. It is not 50% of house rent. 50% of basic. I forgot about basic. What is my basic? 360,000. So what is the 50% of basic? 180,000, right? What is the basic here? Yeah. So out of 360,000, 180,000 is basic. Okay. Now tell me which one is lower here.
1,80,000.
1,80,000 is lower here. Now if I deduct this,
60,000.
how much is taxable? 60,000. Okay. So this is the house rent allowance you are receiving. You see my highlighted box. Okay, this is the this is the house rent allowance which is tax exempted. This is the house rent allowance which is taxable. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
yes, sir.
Okay. For government employees, house rent allowance, all types of allowance are tax exempted. All types of allowance are tax exempted. That's why what I have done here, I have taken the full amount what I received as house rent allowance, and I have shown the total figure in which column? Tax exempted. In that case, what is my taxable house rent allowance? 0. Are you getting a motivation to join in the government workforce?
Here.
Okay. This is interesting. Medical allowance. I received medical allowance 6,000 yearly, 500 monthly. Is it? As a government employee, my medical allowance is tax exempted, but you will not be a government employee. You will work for World Bank. You will have million amount of salaries monthly. So your medical allowance will be a big number. So in that case, how can you avoid taxes? Avoid tax is legal. Avoid tax is right. Avoid tax is ethical. Evasion of taxes is illegal, unethical, and wrongdoing. Okay. If you are expert, if you are very skilled, you may find out the ways how to avoid taxes. If you are an unsmart, if you are dishonest, you will find out the ways how to evade taxes. Have you got the two terms? Let me write it for you. One is tax evasion. Another one is tax avoidance. Which one is a good thing?
Sir, tax avoidance is good thing.
Tax avoidance is a good thing. The more concentration you will put in business taxation class, the more tips you will be able to learn how to avoid taxes. However, I will not tell you, or I will not be able to help you how to evade taxes. This is a dishonest thing. This is a task. This is a honest way to avoid taxes. Okay. You know very well. We have some. If I like to give you an example, most of our skilled business people or business individuals in our country are very skilled how to avoid taxes. So they structure their income and expenses investment in such a way to avoid a hefty amount of taxes. So to avoid taxes, you need to be skilled, very much skilled, very specialized in the income tax ordinance and income tax rules, so that you will get the ways how to avoid, how to reduce your tax liability. Okay, you already have got one tips how to avoid the tax from the house rent allowance. Okay, so that is one way. If your salary, let me tell you why I'm telling that house rent allowance is one of the ways to avoid taxes. For example, your employer has included all of your house rent allowance in basic salary, and he does not give you anything in the name of house rent allowance. In that case, is there any opportunity to you to avoid the or to exempt tax liability under the heading house rent allowance?
No, sir.
You need to find out the employer who give you house rent allowance and who give you basic salary, and there is a clear breakdown between these two, and you can exempt some of your house rent allowance for tax purposes. Okay. Let's talk about the medical allowance. So what is the rule? Out of your medical allowance you are receiving, you will get exemption of how much amount? The answer is you will 10% of your basic, or 120,000. Which one is lower? Let me show you. For example, in this case, what is the basic of this employer? Basic of this employee, 360,000.
360.
What is the 10% of this 360,000? 10%?
36,000.
36,000 only. Okay. So, and 120,000 annual. Between 36,000 and 120,000, which one is lower? 36,000 is lower.
Yes, sir.
For that amount, you will get tax exemption from your medical allowance. Now, if you subtract your exemption amount 36,000 from your allowance 48,000, how much taxable medical allowance you have right now? 12,000.
12,000.
Okay, so in case of the handicapped assessee, the person who has got certificate as a disabled or as a handicapped from the proper authority, his medical allowance will be exempted up to how much?
10 lakh.
1 million. 1 million. Okay, so make it very clear. Now,
Yes, sir.
in my case, how it is totally exempted? Because
Fully exempted.
I'm not a private employee. Okay, otherwise I would need to have a calculation. In which way? In this way. Okay, now if I ask you, if I were a private employee, how much tax exemption I would get for medical allowance. Let me show you my basic. It is my basic 482,386. What is the 10% of this amount? 48,238 or 239. 48,239. So
Yes, sir.
120,000 is another amount or another figure. So between 120,000 and 48,239, which one is lower?
48,239.
In that case, my exempted amount would be 48,239. Okay. So I think you have got the calculation. Now, if it is such that you have got allowance from your employer because your employer is so kind-hearted that employer bears your expenses for heart surgery, kidney surgery, eye surgery, or liver surgery, or cancer treatment expenses. In that case, total amount will be tax exempted. I think you have got it. Okay, fine. Now, if your employer gives you conveyance allowance, don't understand it as a conveyance allowance. It is very likely to give to the employee if employer does not provide office conveyance facility to you. So in that case, it is likely that you will get some allowance for your conveyance so that you can travel to your office conveniently. What is the rule? Annual 30,000 amount is tax exempted. As this person has received how much? 60,000 from his employer for conveyance allowance. That's why his out of his 60,000 conveyance allowance, how much is tax exempted? 30,000 is tax exempted. It is always 30,000. You are chief executive officer or you are management trainee officer, regardless of your basic salary, regardless of your grade level, this figure is 30,000. 30,000 exemption is applicable equally. Okay. So, festival bonus. Usually, people in our country receive 2 festival bonus in time of Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, and total festival allowance or festival bonus, whatever the name you try to identify, total amount is tax exempt. Taxable. Zero amount is tax exempted, regardless of your employer. What does it mean? You are government employee, you are non-government employee, that makes no difference when you are taking or when you are treating the taxable income for festival allowance. Okay. Then if you are very lucky because you work for a good employer, that employer will give you a servant allowance. In that case, 18,000, total amount is taxable. Total amount is taxable. These are some leave allowance. Employer will give you some allowance to enjoy your leave. Employee feels that I don't have good amount of money to go to Cox's Bazar to enjoy my leave. So employer is very kind-hearted to give you some leave allowance so that you will not spend your holiday at your home. Rather, you will spend your recreation time or holiday at some recreational places. So that amount is totally taxable. honorarium, reward, totally taxable. Overtime, totally taxable. Okay. So if you are pursuing to have a career in multinational companies, you are very likely to experience, or you will very likely to do overtime there. For example, some of my friends, not some of my, few of my friends work in HSBC, and they start their day every day at 9 a.m. That means they start for their office at 9 a.m. and they return home at 10 p.m. or after 10 p.m. And after returning to home, they try to express some anger to some people, or some people means some colleagues of them. Some colleagues who are still working when they are leaving. So it is likely that some of their colleagues work for 12 p.m. there in HSBC office. That means when the time is dusk, after afternoon or after evening, people get more energy to do more work. So they don't feel attached to their family. They don't find it worthwhile to spend their time for their children or with their spouse, and they want to work more and more for late night at their multinational company offices. And they get more motivation, and employer also find it worthwhile to get their work done by these employees who work for overtime. Can you tell me what is their motivation?
So overtime.
Their
overtime salary.
overtime salary is the global rule. The global or the worldwide rule is the overtime allowance will be at least double of the basic allowance. That means if the basic allowance for per hour is 5,000, basic overtime allowance will be at least 10,000. So after finishing the month, they see their overtime allowance is few times higher than their basic salary. Have you got it?
Yes, sir.
However, if you go to the government offices, or you will have the opportunity to work for government in your career, you will see when the time is 4:30 p.m. For example, right now, though the office will be closed at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., from after their lunch, people are waiting to leave office and to return to their home. People are waiting to catch the office bus or catch the office car to leave their home, and they try. When you will go to the government office at 5 p.m., you will be very lucky if you see only one or two people in their desk. What is the reason?
স্যার ওদের বোনাস স্যালারি হয়তো কম অনেক।
There is no overtime.
Yes, sir. Overtime, nahi, sir.
Simply there is no overtime. Okay. Now, if the overtime allowance was introduced, you would see there's a problem also. People try to lengthen their work. so that they will need more time and their time required will be stretched to the overtime. Have you got it? That is the bad motive from the employees. So,
তবে স্যার কিছু অফিসে তো থাকে স্যার।
yeah. But I have said you are lucky if you see. But in case of if they are there, they are very honest. But in most of the cases, it is not a likely picture. It is not a likely picture. Okay. And
আমি বলছি
yeah.
কোন কোন অফিসে তো স্যার মানে ওভারটাইম থাকে।
But in most of the government offices or most of the government structure, there is no room for government. There is no room for overtime allowance.
জি স্যার বুঝতে পারছি স্যার।
Got it? Okay. So let
Yes,
me
sir.
conclude by telling one interesting story related to overtime and the salary component. That is the leave encashment allowance. I think you have seen this term when I was showing you the salary component. Leave encashment. Okay. If you ask or if you have an experience that my friends who work in multinational companies, they are very likely not to take leave from their office. They don't like to take leave. Do you think they are very honest, they are very loyal, and they love their employer with their heart? It is not the reason.
স্যার অ্যাকচুয়ালি স্যার লিভ স্যার এনকেশমেন্ট করা যায় এই জন্য স্যার
Because they can convert their leave to cash amount. So they want to encash their leave, which they have not taken. However, employers nowadays have realized that there should be a work-life balance. Otherwise, employee will not have mental stability in his latter part of his career life. That's why employers nowadays give mandatory leave. In that case, when there's a mandatory leave, you must take the leave. It is mandatory for you. You can't have the chance to avoid the leave and to encash those leave. Okay. So if you get any leave encashment and you are a private employee, all of your leave encashment amount is taxable. Okay. But so far I can understand, or what the experience I have been faced till now, I have not seen such kind of benefit here in government sector that it is possible to encash the leave. That's why government employees don't feel very shy to take the leave. They feel very confident to take the leave from their employer whenever they get the opportunity. I think it is a very good time to end today's session.
স্যার স্যার একটা কোশ্চেন ছিল